Great. All right. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Chase. I'm the instructional services librarian at Cuyamaca College. I'm also the department chair as well, so I have that honorable responsibility as well. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of share an overview of the library, particularly with some key updates that have happened with the library as well. So I'm really excited to share those. All of them are good. So we'll be able to kind of go over those. But again, if you have any questions in the meantime or over the course of this presentation, feel free to, again, unmute yourself, or if you'd like to add anything to the chat. I'd like to have more of a conversation. I'm not as much of a one-way type of person. I like to have that dynamic two-way kind of conversation. But yeah, so with that, we'll go ahead. So with this particular presentation, because I know I have a few other Flex workshops also scheduled later this week, this one's going to specifically focus on an overview of the variety and vastness of library resources that are available to faculty to support their courses and arguably more importantly, to support students, especially when it comes to research, but also when it comes to just access to information overall, because there are some equity gaps when it comes to that. And, we'll be addressing that as we kind of go along. So with that, let's go ahead. So I have a little bit of an agenda here just to kind of outline what exactly we'll be covering. Again, in terms of those equity gaps, I'd like to stress the different ways that the library is supporting CTC efforts, especially with faculty trying to, provide zero cost textbook costs to their students, but also just providing more affordable student learning processes as well. So we can discuss the different ways that the library can support you as faculty when it comes to that. And then we also have, we'll also go more in depth with course materials specifically, like any required course materials, whether that's textbooks or maybe more specifically program specific equipment, such as like photography or math or anything like that, and how you as faculty can actually place textbooks on reserve with us for students to check out. We'll also talk about student technology, specifically more laptops, Chromebooks, and Wi-Fi hotspots that are available for students to check out, and you and your role as a faculty and how you can support them with that access. And then we'll also kind of go over those online library resources. So in addition to all these like physical components, we have a vast electronic collection spanning with databases, streaming media, and ebooks as well. And then we'll also kind of touch on like how can you integrate those online resources into Canvas. And there's been a couple of little updates with that, but luckily I'll be able to kind of guide you through that process. And then even with the vastness of our collection, we can always improve. So there'll be also a part of this slide deck where you can help suggest some resources in case there's something that you notice that are missing, or maybe you just have more questions about like, do we actually have that? And if not, how can we potentially support that part of the collection or those potential collection gaps? But yeah, so with that, I think we'll move forward with my next slide here, which I believe is the question. So this is like just so we can kind of gauge where everyone's kind of at in terms of which program they're working with and discipline. I'd like to know, what do you teach at Cuyamaca College? You can be very specific if you have specific courses, but if you want to just say which program you're part of, that'll actually help me kind of tailor and maybe focus on a few resources that I think are really key to your respective programs and disciplines. Child development and elementary ed, perfect. Anatomy, great. Any other takers? Cool. So I think we're seeing, okay, so we got child development, we got some anatomy, so perfect. So like health sciences and such. Arabic, perfect. Love that. But yeah, Great. So I think those are some really great subjects that we can potentially kind of focus on, or I can touch on if a certain resource kind of comes to mind as we're kind of going into this. So I love that. And if you have questions specific to your program, your courses, we'd love to hear them too. So with the library, we are committed to providing students with equitable access when it comes to educational resources, specifically when it comes to like breaking down paywalls, those subscriptions or otherwise purchase options that they have to go through when it comes to access to information, whether it's a book, an ebook, or probably more popularly is a research article, because unfortunately most of the research landscape is layered with a paywall. But luckily, as an academic library, our purpose is to help break down those paywalls for students to bypass them so they can have access to information equitably and for free. And with that, that also comes with supporting faculty with CTC efforts. So if there's certain materials that we can potentially provide that can maybe replace textbook costs or other types of course materials, even if we're talking about like films or equipment, that could be another potential avenue. We can always have that ongoing discussion. So even though this is kind of like a launching point with this presentation, I like to have it as a launching point for an ongoing conversation with you. So with that, we'll kind of go on the section here, which I think is probably one of the more popular, especially with students, is being able to access course materials. So any type of required materials that you might have, usually that's going to end up as being like textbooks. And as we all know, textbooks are very expensive for students. And while Cuyamaca College is advancing a lot of OER efforts, there's also efforts in terms of just providing ZTC efforts when it comes to not having the students facing the cost, but maybe the institution itself might have to face that cost. And with the library, we can definitely support that. So one of the ways we kind of do that is by placing course materials on reserve. So instructors can actually, and are highly encouraged, we always do this, and actually this is my kind of like reminder to any instructors here, to make sure that they place a copy of their textbooks on reserve with us. We actually do have a dedicated shelving collection of an assortment of the required textbooks that students will usually access. And because it's your own personal copy, you're placing it on reserve with us, you can actually inform us the loan period or the length of time that a student can actually check it out. So as an example, some of our instructors have the reserve copies available for semester-long checkouts. They might have them available for 7-day checkouts, or they might have them for 3-hour checkouts, depending on the demand and the turnout of students needing their textbooks. And often it's a way of supplementing students to be able to have access to course materials, especially when they're waiting, shipping with their own textbooks or just getting access, or maybe just need an access to a specific chapter or anything like that. So there is actually a form that is available. I can provide a link at the end of this presentation to it, but essentially it'll look like this particular page. Actually, since I'm already on here, might as well. I'll share it into the chat. And yeah, so this is basically just the process. It's a very short form that you have to provide, and there's a couple different ways you can bring the textbook or the copy of the textbook over to us. We make it super simple. But if you have any questions about that too, we actually have dedicated library staff who can assist you with that process. Basically, it's managed by our circulation team. And there's our phone number and email in case you have any questions about that as well. Or even if you contact me, I can easily get you in touch with them as well. So that's one of the different ways you can kind of help support students with that. We actually also do have different types of course materials when it comes to, say, we actually have laptops for engineering that are specifically geared for engineering, like application, software, anything like that. Another example would be for photography. We actually do have some photography equipment that's only for students who are currently enrolled in a photography class. The same actually goes for calculators as well. Even though we do have an assortment of general calculators that are available for general use, there are some that are specifically for math enrolled students as well. So yeah, so we have a lot of different resources, and this is just kind of a call to action for faculty to be able to help build that collection with us, as well as promote it to the students, because a lot of students may not necessarily know that we have these available. And with that, we'll actually get into technology. So I kind of alluded to the engineering laptops, and that's one example. We also have another example with graphic design as well. They actually have certain laptops that are dedicated for graphic design software. But actually, in general, as well, we do have other laptops and Chromebooks that are available for students. They're not necessarily specific to a certain program or classes or anything like that. Any students eligible for it. And they're a semester-long loan, essentially. The same actually goes for Wi-Fi hotspots. We do have those available out in case they need access to the internet. Again, semester-long loans, so they keep it for the rest of the semester and just have to return it by the end of the last day of classes. For both of these, though, it does require a referral from a faculty or staff member. So you as an instructor can also support students in that way. So if you have a student who needs access to a laptop for the rest of the semester, or needs access to a Wi-Fi hotspot, or you can actually refer them to both items as well. So students can get either a laptop or a hotspot or both of them together. There's just a simple referral form as well, which I can provide a link. But yeah, it's another great way because unfortunately technology is still another equity issue for a lot of students. So in that way, we can support them. Another thing I really wanted to cover here as well, and I think this probably dedicate quite a bit of our time here, is online library resources. So even though the library actually has, I believe from my last count, over 35,000 physical books available inside the library, which include actually, I'll just specify since I saw there was a child development instructor here, we do have actually a dedicated collection of children's literature. So like picture books and so on. So very young child type of literature. And we actually have a dedicated collection of that available for students. We also have like a paralegal collection in case you're involved in that program. We also have for, where am I going with that? Sorry. We also have an assortment of other types of books across like history, humanities, the quote unquote hard sciences, such as with like STEM related disciplines of um, health and wellness, and anatomy as well, and so on. So, but in addition to that, we have thousands, if not hundreds of, actually it's hundreds of thousands of library resources available online. And funny enough, actually, I believe I was talking to one of the health sciences faculty, and I know there was questions about research databases and whether students even had access to those. And I can safely and assure that they do. So yeah, we have a variety of different resources when it comes to research databases, ebook collections, and streaming media. And I think I'll kind of go into that a little bit more, kind of give you a little demo of where you can find those resources. So with that, click on this link. So essentially, there is a certain listing of these databases that we have. We call it the A to Z databases. You can actually find this on the Kufuyumaka Library website. So essentially, if you go over here, over to research, and then go over to databases, you'll find this list. And this basically provides a listing of all of our available research databases, our ebook collections, as well as streaming media databases as well. And as you can see, we have 127 databases available for students, which is a lot. And I'm really proud that we're able to do that. And we've been actually able to add even more in the last year or so. So as kind of like to kind of demonstrate too. So the reason why I was asking like, what do you teach is that you can actually sort by subject, even students can. So with this list, we actually have dedicated, curated lists of certain databases or other types of collections that are relevant to certain uh, programs. So in case like Arabic studies, I can do a search here and find that there's like 8 specific databases that will probably be very useful to that program. There might be some other ones that are kind of outside of that listing in some way, but these are the ones we found that were the most strongly relevant. We could easily do that again, even for like child development. So there might be, and then even for anatomy, that might probably be under health sciences, if I remember correctly, um, or health education or anything like that. But we can even be more specific in case there are needs for that. And again, there's even listings of like best bets. So these are often ones that we consider like premier choices for like, say, best bet for child development, mainly because ERIC is a very education related database. There might be others for like finding answers intervention research database, which is really great for health education, especially when it comes to health disparities and public health, and so on. So there's a whole line of them. And we even have access to like Medline, which I know for anatomy or health sciences practitioners, you might better know it as PubMed, essentially. So that might be another one. Native Health Database is a really great database as well. So you can find a whole bunch of them here. Um, in addition to some other recommended, maybe not necessarily best bets, but they are definitely relevant to your disciplines. And again, students are able to kind of do that and be able to filter for specific databases that they want. Um, One of the things too is that we have some like featured databases, and the reason why we kind of outline these is because they're often either very popular or they have a unique access point. Because oftentimes, most of these databases you can actually access simultaneously through the library. So if I go back to the library homepage, there's actually this Kurimaka One search. I'm not sure if anyone's taken a look at that, but we've made some renovations to it actually starting in January 1st, to where how it looks and how it feels. But essentially, if I was to do a search for Kumeyaay education, for example, and I did like a search, essentially what will happen is it will do a comprehensive search of most of our databases. I can't say it will do all of them, and there's a couple different reasons why. Back-end issues, honestly. It's nothing that we can necessarily fix too much. Because again, each database is hosted by a different vendor, and different vendors have competing interests, so some of them don't like to share. So you might have to access them separately. That's the long and short of it. But say I wanted to do that, I can do a pretty good comprehensive search for a variety of different information sources, books, articles, theses, dissertations, news articles, and so on relating back to this. This is a really great tool to use. I'll cover it more in my other Flex workshop. But one of the things I do want to kind of highlight since you're here is that one of the really cool features with this, in addition to being able to sort by peer-reviewed journals or by certain types of types, and finding online full-text access to things, they do have this concept map, which essentially allows you to be able to find certain concepts or terminology, and students can actually kind of have this like mind mapping process and be able to see related types of terms. So let's say we were kind of interested in this term. It'll give you a little bit more background information into it. It'll give you some semantically related terminology, defining relations and all that. And the cool thing is that you can keep kind of adding to these, and you can even do a map visualization of this, as you can kind of see all the different relationships that this particular term has with all these other ones. And it's really kind of cool. You can keep adding concepts and then add them to your search, which is really nice. And so you can kind of see like which ones might give you better results, or maybe more results, less results, but kind of like a stronger focus on them and so on. So this is really, really great. But yeah, so with that, students will just have to log in, all faculty too. Basically, it's through our single sign-on process. They'll just have to enter their first name dot last name, email address, for their student email address, and then their usually defaults to the 6-digit birth date or any of the other passwords that they might have updated later on. But kind of going back, what I wanted to kind of showcase here is that the Kuriamaka OneSearch doesn't necessarily include all of these databases, and we actually kind of highlight that here, where it says not in OneSearch, meaning that any of the information that's found in this particular database won't be found in Kuriamaka OneSearch. So you'll have to access it separately, which is totally fine. It's just that Kuriamaka OneSearch is really a great launching point for a lot of students in case they have a broad idea of their topic or they're not really sure what they're looking for. These are much more specific if you want to kind of dive deeper into things. But yeah, there's some really great stuff, including like this Arabic. I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to pronounce that database, where I can actually see some pre-modern Arabic documents written on papyrus. I think that's how it's pronounced. But yeah, it's a really great historical type of database in that sense. But yeah, so you can also find a lot of our ebooks as well. One through the Kuriamaka OneSearch. So Kuriamaka OneSearch will find all of our available ebooks. So you don't necessarily have to go through our separate collections necessarily. You can even just, again, sort by it. So if I was to say, let's say anatomy, actually. I'm kind of curious. If I was to do a search for that, and then I'll eventually do a source type search, I want to see about books and see what we have available. So yeah, as it kind of shows, we have a lot of different types of access to different types of anatomy related texts, both ebooks as well as books. So this one's showcasing that we have a physical book located, and it even provides a call number where you can find it. And then there's also all these other options as well. But yeah, it's a really great way of being able to come across all of our different resources available to us. And as it shows, we have like access to roughly around 30,000 books, which might be a little ambitious. I'm actually kind of curious how accurate that is. But even if we don't have access to a specific book or an article, students and even faculty can actually request through our interlibrary loan service and be able to get it from a different library that we have a partnership with, and be able to get that book physically sent here, or maybe a copy of a chapter or a copy of the research article, which is another really great thing. And luckily, those options will also be available in the case like maybe something's not retrievable here. So yeah, it's another really cool way. One of the other things I really kind of want to highlight here, since we're on this particular site, is that we actually have an Ask a Librarian type of chat feature. So on the bottom right here, there's this Ask a Librarian 24/7 chat. Essentially, it'll lead you into this, where it'll kind of ask for your name and your email. Any email will do for a student. They can provide their personal one as well. It's just a way for the librarian to follow up with the student in case there was maybe a disconnection or just wanted to do further follow-up. And then they just initiate a question that they have about their research. Essentially, what that's going to do is mostly during the day, like during the time that the library is open, it's going to connect automatically to a Kuriamaka librarian. So we have a librarian available on the chat from 9 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. But say you might be asking, what about like evenings? What about weekends? Well, the 24/7 is actually literal. It literally means that a librarian is going to be available 24/7. It may not necessarily be a Kuriamaka librarian, but it will be a librarian within the California community colleges. Because we partner with each other, we help each other in that respect. So there will always be a librarian available in the chat, and they can still help that student be guided through the research process. And if there's something a little bit more specific, to Cuyamaca, maybe their login issue or anything like that, that librarian is going to submit us a ticket, and we can follow up with the student and with that ticket and be able to continue that conversation with them. So they're still going to get that help that they need, which is really awesome. We actually even have it available on our, as it kind of prompted here, on the library homepage, which is nice. So I love that as well. But I don't think a lot of faculty and students are necessarily aware that we have that available to them. So yeah, let's see. You know what? Since we're at kind of the 30-minute mark, I want to see if there's any questions so far or anything like that, or I can just keep rolling ahead, but just kind of check in because I know that was a lot of information, especially even with the other slides. I see a great, awesome. I love it. Yeah, hopefully showcasing some of these resources is helping out, kind of give you a better idea what we have. And again, even if you don't necessarily find it on your own searches, feel free to contact us and try to see like, hey, do you have this specific database? Do you have this specific journal? Do we have this specific book? We can definitely help you out with that and even see maybe there's other types of ways of accessing it, or that we can maybe potentially add it to our kind of wish list of, for future purchases as with each fiscal year, right? So we'd be more than happy to do that because we love to hear student voices and we love to hear faculty voices to kind of guide how we build the collection more. Because for us, especially, I know Rita's on the call here, we're really trying to ramp up and really revise and expand and really make the collection more relevant to students and faculty. So, but yeah, I think we're having a good start with that. But yeah, let's see. I see a question. Do you know if the library has access to open educational books in Arabic language? So that's a great question. Yes, in a way. There are certain okay, let me go with it. So in Cuyamaca One search here, it does have access to certain open access resources. Particularly, I know like the directory of open access books would be one that's like kind of its own index of open access literature or OER materials. So that might be one way it can access it through that. But in terms of like specific OERs, not necessarily. We do have certain OERs that were created by faculty actually embedded into our catalog, and so it'll actually show up here as well if you do like a title search for a specific book. For many of the Cuyamaca faculty created materials. But there's actually a certain OER finders online that are already kind of built out to do that kind of purpose for you to find those type of OERs. I know one I believe is called MetaFinder, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I'd be happy to follow up with you about that because that'd be actually really interesting to know for Arabic specifically. I'm sure it'll have quite a bit of resources when it comes to English language, but I'm actually kind of curious about the Arabic component of that. Hopefully that kind of answers your question. It can give you access to it, but what Cuyamaca OneSearch might be accessing might not necessarily be as powerful as you might find with other OER kind of finders or systems that are available online. But I know Josh Franco has been kind of helping out with that as well, curating which finders kind of help identify OERs for you and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully that also helps. But I'd be more than happy to follow up with you with some curated systems that you can use for that. But yeah, I'll just keep watching the chat in the meantime, but I guess I'll move on and steamroll ahead. But yeah, so as I said, you have access to a variety of different ebooks. I'm gonna just showcase because I think it's a little bit easier with A to Z databases here. But yeah, it showcases that we have like 12 different collections here. As you can see, directory of open access books. That's what I was referring to earlier about that like OER component. But we also have these other subscription collections as well. So I'll choose, let's say the community college collection, just to kind of highlight a little bit of it. But again, you can find pretty much all of these ebooks that we have subscriptions to, also available on Cuyamaca OneSearch as well. But yeah, I mean, basically you can find not only like textbook type literature and nonfiction, but also even fiction as well. So I'm just going to do like a general fiction as well for that. There's also children's literature. I know there's actually a few ebooks that I've found when it comes to children's literature as well, and then just other types of collections that you can easily find here. So I'll do like child development for the sake of it, just to kind of highlight. Um, but yeah, so there's easily a lot of different types of child development related materials here that you can easily access, and all of these are accessible through this database. And again, you can find them on Kurimaka One Search, just if you want to make it a little bit more convenient to yourself. But yeah, with that, the other thing I really kind of want to stress here, actually with the A to Z, more specifically, is our streaming media. So streaming media is actually the one tricky collection type that isn't incorporated in OneSearch, mainly just because of its nature of being streaming media versus being like a text, whether it's an academic article or a book or anything like that. They're more easily searchable if you go through the direct databases themselves. So I have three to kind of highlight here. There's Films on Demand, there's Swank Digital Campus, and much more. We just added DocuSeek. I believe that was added last year in the summer. So I'll kind of touch on the differences between these. Basically, Swank is kind of our more feature entertainment films, so more of those popular films that you kind of see in cinemas. Films on Demand will include a mix of indie films as well as documentaries and educational videos in general, long ones and short ones. DocuSeek is a really good collection of high quality documentaries that we've recently just been able to add. I believe they have over 200. We can take a look at them real quick. But they're more centered around social justice, diversity, inclusion, and across a whole range of different topics, from health to language to child development as well. I'm pretty sure I've seen at least one or two documentaries when it comes to that. But we can take a quick look at each of these. Yeah, of course, for the child development search, I'm happy to do so. Yeah, that's I'm glad I asked or first off, just to kind of give me ideas of what to search for and might be relevant to all of you. But yeah, so this particular collection, as I said, is more educational videos as well as documentaries, particularly like PBS, Frontline, anything like that. You'll find a lot. You'll find also like National Geographic type videos, which is great. So it's a really awesome collection, and it's continually adding new types of videos on a range of different topics. Like I saw that they were focusing on the Russia-Ukraine war at one point. They have other stuff on like business and economics, humanities, social sciences. I did see actually recently features on like anatomy. Oh, actually like neuroscience and so on. But yeah, a whole range of different videos. And it's really awesome to kind of see and explore. I continually find something new every time I go into this database. They have stuff from like BBC, they even have stuff from HBO and so on. So it's continually being added. They might remove certain videos after certain years just for licensing issues, but for the most part, you get really good, stable access to a lot of these great quality content. And so yeah, you can either do like specific searches for certain topics, or if you have like a title in mind, I would definitely recommend taking a look as well. And again, you can even like kind of go into each one, kind of see the length of them, and maybe a short description of it, who it was produced by, even provides transcripts, which is really nice for accessibility purposes. Even provides segments, so you can actually like certain videos will actually have like certain chapters to where you can kind of skip ahead if it was a longer form video. So that's really nice. I'm pretty sure with the transcripts, you can actually download them, which is really great in case you need to provide that for your students, or they can easily download it from themselves here as well. Um, yeah. And one of the things I did want to kind of share later on, but you can even embed these videos Yeah, you can either provide the direct link to the video, or you can even embed it into Canvas, which is something I'll talk about later on about Canvas integration. A lot of this will be very seamless, which is really nice. And this kind of applies to pretty much anything that you're finding, whether it's an ebook or anything like that. Basically, you'll be able to get a permanent stable link to that resource wherever you're getting it from. They just might be a little different depending on which database you're kind of accessing. Um, Another really great resource, and I think maybe not really utilized, at least from what we're seeing from Creamaka, so I think this is a really great way to kind of push it out more, is our Swink database. So basically, like I said, it kind of features more popular type of feature films. And so it's a really great way if your particular class wants to kind of center around a discussion on a film or an analysis or anything like that. You can easily find a whole host of different types of films. Some of them will be documentaries, but most of them are pretty much feature films, ranging in different types of genres. Again, documentaries, as you can see there, horror, drama, science fiction, so on. So depending on what it kind of is relevant to you, and you can even see what was recently added. So every year we actually the collection will shift a little bit to where some will be removed, but a lot more will be added. We actually just recently added Everything Everywhere All at Once, which actually I just streamed myself. It was a really cool film. And yeah, so you can easily have access to any of these. And you can easily provide them in your classrooms if needed. So again, even with the Films on Demand, DocuSeek, and Swink database, you can have them actually shown in the classroom. Totally have the license for that. So yeah, so there's some really great content here. You can even get the direct link to it or the LMS link if you're trying to embed it into Canvas, so on and so forth. And then another one to kind of feature here, again, because it's fairly new, I really want to push it out a little bit more, is our DocuSeek database. So again, this is a recent collection that we've developed when it comes to documentaries. Has a whole host of different types of subjects and topics, particularly when it kind of is centered around intersectional issues. So across like race, gender, socioeconomic, health, disability, and so on. It's really awesome to find all these different types of resources available. You can even search by certain types of subjects. So say we wanted to talk about like education. I saw there was one on development. I'm actually kind of curious if that's referring to child development, but you can easily see there's some stuff on like schools and all that, parenting. We can see maybe on, I think there was one on kind of like Arabic related, if I remember correctly. It might be more specific in that regard, but there's even like health and healthcare. So you can see all these different types of documentaries that are available. Some are short, some are a little longer. But yeah, some really great stuff here. There's even a complete subject guide list. So if I remember correctly, I want to say, I'm going to be so sad if I'm wrong, if there was an Arabic one specifically. Unfortunately, there isn't, but I know there was one on like Palestinian type of issues, anything like that. So there might be a little bit more specific in that. And there's one on like Saudi Arabia. So there's like different terminology that might be used, but might be a little bit more specific than Arabic studies. But you can definitely find a lot of different content here, which is awesome. But yeah, again, easy to embed any of these. So if I was interested in having this embedded into my Canvas container, once it kind of loads, there's actually an embed option here. And you can basically have this embed code, or you can get the permanent link. Either one is totally fine. And that'll definitely work for you with Canvas. So yeah, it's really great. And again, another really awesome way of supplementing or even replacing textbook costs, potentially, depending on, again, it depends on your respective program and your course and your students' needs and anything like that, what you're trying to accomplish with your course. So, but honestly, the whole range of different media that we have when it comes to like ebooks, research articles, news articles, again, even with ebooks and streaming media, hopefully this will help supplement, if not completely advance that effort for full CTC for you. And that's what we're here for. But yeah, any questions or anything like that? Anything you're particularly interested in knowing a little bit more about, even if it's regarding your specific uh, program or classes or anything like that? Um, I know I have plenty more to kind of cover, but yeah, just want to kind of take a moment here, take a moment to breathe. I always forget to do that during presentations. So, but yeah, I think we'll continue on. Again, if you have a question, post it and I'll pause for a moment and read it if you have anything. Oh, awesome. So we're at Canvas integration. So you might be wondering, like, is there a way for me to integrate these resources into Canvas? And as we've been kind of talking about, I kind of answered my own question in here. Yes, you can. It kind of just depends on what the resource is, essentially. And luckily, if you don't necessarily want to necessarily go through a librarian to kind of to do it, you want to do your own work. I totally respect that. I kind of also my own like self-paced type of person and would like to just learn as I kind of go. Uh, we've luckily made a resource for that. So I'm going to click on this and I'll provide the link to it. Well, under our distance education library services page, which I'll provide a link to. But honestly, this easily is applicable to anyone who's teaching an in-person class or a HyFlex or anything like that. Even though we didn't label it as more distance education, but it just seemed more apt to do so. This actually gives you general instructions on how you can actually embed or link these resources yourself. So you don't necessarily need us to do it for you, but we're more than happy to help you along the way. In case you have any issues, we even provide our email here in case you have any doubts, have any issues, have any questions. But yeah, so this is actually been also a recent change too. So if you actually have an existing resource on Canvas that you're using that directs to a library resource, definitely talk to us about it, or definitely kind of consider these instructions here, because starting on January 1st, we actually started making a change with our how students were able to log into our resources. So it's basically changed over now to a single sign-on process. Hasn't really changed so much on the student's end. It just really is going to affect more the link itself, because it's now going to have this new proxy prefix. You don't need to know what that is. It basically is just new part of the link. And it just needs this in front of the link most of the time for any of our resources now. Luckily, there is, I just confirmed with one of my librarian colleagues that this change doesn't necessarily mean that all your links are broken right now. There is a 90-day kind of like delay on the older links. So you can easily still talk to us and have that ongoing conversation. I would just definitely recommend reaching out to us because unfortunately we don't have access to everyone's Canvas containers or anything like that. So you'd have to reach out to us and say, hey, I do actually use your films. Just want to make sure, is it going to still continue working? We can kind of work with you, evaluate that link. If it's going to continue working, awesome. If it needs to change, we can definitely help you out with that. So it's really not a big deal or anything like that. It's just if you kind of get it over with, it's easy, honestly. But again, you can easily do this on your own as well. I just updated this page over the month. So basically, if you were accessing anything from our like EBSCO databases, which were a lot of those like EBSCO ebook databases and so on, or even when we were kind of searching through Kunimaka OneSearch, a lot of those were EBSCO links. This would kind of give you instructions on how to do that. If you're accessing from any of our Gale vendor databases, this would be its own instructions. For Swink, as I kind of talked about earlier, Films on Demand, so on. So yeah, luckily that'll help you out a lot when it comes to getting those links fixed or updated, or maybe create new links that you may, you found an ebook that you didn't know we had, and you want to provide that to the students. That's awesome. But again, we're more than happy to help. My email contact is also available here if you ever need to reach me personally or any of our librarians. You can easily use this link as well, or that email address. But yeah, so with that, it's a pretty seamless process. It's honestly very stressless, at least to me. But that might be because I'm a librarian, so I might be biased in that way. But yeah, but if you have some time, you want to work on that, feel free to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. Okay, so one of the last things I kind of wanted to address here was resource recommendations. So even though say like I know Rita's on the call again, Rita and I are the primary collection developers. Basically, we basically work with the different faculty, with the programs, with the students, and kind of hearing out feedback on how we can better develop the collections, both the physical and the virtual ones, as you kind of saw into more relevant, more diverse, more inclusive, more accessible for students and faculty alike. So we actually do have a short, brief form if you ever wanted to submit that. But honestly, if you ever wanted to just email us like a resource, whether it's a database, whether it's a journal, whether it's a specific article, or a specific book, we can definitely look into it, see what the options are on our end to be able to acquire that for you, or maybe acquire something similar if in case that one resource is like super tricky to get. It doesn't happen all that often, but it does from time to time. But yeah, we can definitely help find supplementary resources or anything else like that. But yeah, so the link basically is on our faculty services page, which actually I'm going to link over because I think that's a perfect way to transition to this page. So this is basically available on the library website. It should be under faculty services. This gives a kind of a really nice overview of all the different resources that are available to you or different services that we provide to faculty to best support them. When it comes to, again, placing course materials on reserve for student use, when it comes to embedding resources on Canvas, requesting instruction from us. If you want us to come to your classroom or you want your class to come to the library, we can kind of give an orientation of sorts, such like that. But one of the things here is the resource recommendation, which again is a very short MS Forms type of survey thing. Basically just gives us your contact information so we can follow up with you in case there's questions or just updates. We can't say we can always get every single resource that's recommended, but we'll definitely try our best at it. But yeah, let's see. Do you have books on citing references properly for beginner writers? You know, that's actually a great question. We do have some of the citation manuals, depending on what it is, like APA, AMA, and such like that. We may need to look at those again. Luckily, tutoring actually has a lot of resources when it comes to that. I believe on their website, they have actually a lot of different. I'm actually going to take a look really quick. Kurimaka. They have a lot of different worksheets, kind of like, or at least like handouts that you can kind of work with, if I remember correctly. I know they kind of just changed their website a little bit. So, tutoring student resources. So yeah, they have like citation guides on MLA, APA, and so on. So they kind of give some really nice ones. Honestly, a lot of the resources that they're providing are really useful. In that sense, it's kind of more for like beginners, like it's kind of tailored towards that. So I would probably recommend that versus like books, but we do actually have books, I'm pretty sure. Um, let's see, citation styles. Yeah, let's see. I'm actually kind of curious. So in our like ebooks, so we have like from in particular, like everything you need to know about MLA citations, and these are all available. Columbia Guide, I've never done that citation style, but I guess that exists. Other ones on like how to format your paper, whether it's a research paper and so on. APA guidelines, 7th edition. So that's really a great quick study. Looks like it's just more of a brief, like condensed version of APA guidelines, which is actually awesome. So yeah, let's see. Sorry, I saw my internet connection went unstable for a moment, but yeah, it looks like we actually have quite a bit here that are available. And if you ever want these linked to your courses, you can either do it yourself, as I kind of outlined, or I'm more than happy to help you out, or any of our librarians. But yeah, I would definitely recommend tutoring though. Tutoring has some really good resources when it comes to citations. There's other stuff we do help with that. I know it's not really necessarily relevant to this workshop, but we do provide some assistance with citation generator software like Zotero and Mendeley. We can definitely assist with that. And those are free resources that are available to students, and they can actually keep even after they graduate. I love Zotero when it comes to citations. You still have to fix them though. You know, any citation generator always produces errors, so it's always good to have the books or the other reference materials like you're suggesting. But it's a really good starting process, so you don't have to start from scratch. But yeah, hopefully that helps answer that question as well. I know I went a little long-winded with that one, but yeah. So yeah, with that, we have a couple other things I just wanted to kind of stress here in case you're just not aware. Library spaces. I think this is another great resource for students. You know, even though it's not necessarily a book, it's not necessarily an ebook. Library, like having space to study, I think is an understated resource. And unfortunately, it still has its own equity gaps, right? So just to kind of stress on in the spring of 2024, as we've been doing for the last year or two, Rita can correct me, we've been open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So we're actually the longest running spaces on campus for students to use. And all of our services, like all of our staff, are available during those times, during those hours. So and students are more than welcome to use that space. We also have study rooms. We actually have 7 rooms that can be used by individual students or groups for 2 hours at a time. And it's a first come, first served basis. They're really nice. We actually have 2 of the rooms with projectors as well. So that's really good. They all have whiteboards as well. So they're pretty well outfitted for study rooms for students to have a quiet, private space to study or collaborate. We also have computer labs. So in addition to all the laptops and Chromebooks and so on that I was stressing out earlier, we also do have a dedicated computer lab. So we actually have a collection of different computers that students can easily hop in, hop on, and log in effortlessly. First come, first serve on that. And then we have service desks. So we actually have our circulation desk, which basically it's our staff that manages the reserve collection that I was talking about with the textbooks, laptop checkouts, anything like that. So anything to do with like utilizing any of our physical resources, circulation desk is awesome when it comes to that. We also, on the second floor of the building, we have a research help desk, which is where our librarians are located, and we can provide one-on-one consultations with students and so on, finding resources, finding a piece of information in the library, anything like that. So yeah, definitely recommend referring your students to those resources as well. Because unfortunately, yeah, as Rita and I have learned, some students are just not aware that we necessarily exist, or we have this particular type of service or this particular type of resource. So we love and with that, there's also our library team. I think that's also another really great resource to have as a student and as a faculty. And I was already kind of specifying like what does circulation do, what does research help do. But yeah, as you can see, we have a really great dedicated team of faculty like myself, classified staff. We also have student workers as well, who are all awesome at what they do. And so, yeah, circulation services when it comes to checking out library items, renewing them over the course of the semester, having access to textbooks on reserve, access to laptops, Chromebooks, and Wi-Fi hotspots, managing and troubleshooting faculty and student library accounts when it comes to those checkouts or any fines or anything like that, and interlibrary loans. So like I said, even if we don't have a book available or an article available, can easily exchange that article with one of our partner libraries across the nation. We actually have hundreds of different libraries with that partnership. So it's awesome. And then we also have research help, which is basically our librarians. We have a great selection of librarians like Rita, as well as our adjunct librarians, who are ready and willing to help with students and with faculty with all things research and information. So like, again, those one-on-one consultations. We also, again, are the primary developers of the library collection. So if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to us. We manage the databases, ebooks, and streaming media, particularly me as the electronic resources librarian. I get that great honor of doing that. Yeah. And then also with course support with research assignments. So whether that's like having a librarian visit your classroom, having your class visit the library, even having a Zoom session, if it's a HyFlex or a hybrid or an online type of situation. We even have asynchronous library instruction support. So we can actually even do that as well. That'll be on the Thursday Flex workshop. I'll be able to kind of talk about that more, or even collaborating with you as well when it comes to research assignments as well. Like if you want to be able to guide students with your research project that you want them to go through and to be able to really maximize their usage of the library, you can talk to one of us and we can kind of help, provide some maybe instructions on how they can better access resources, just so they're kind of aware, like, hey, I'm looking on stuff about historical preservation. I have no idea where to find that, or anything about like research on anatomy, research on child development and education, Arabic studies. We can definitely help out with that. Yeah, let's see. So with that, I think we're near the end, which kind of makes sense because I think it is, yeah, 1 minute till. So this is my information here in case you want to reach out for any reason. I do see there was a question, so I just want to take a quick look at that. Sorry, there's a glare. Do we have an attendance sheet that we need to sign to get credit for the session? I wasn't provided one, but luckily the Zoom session actually gives me everyone's names, so I can easily generate that. But I'll follow up with probably with Bree Brown. I'm sure she probably knows if there's any like attendance type of thing. But yeah, I definitely have all your names, so you're all good in, in that sense. Yeah. But yeah, any other questions or anything like that? I know we're hit the hour or the hour and a half, or I don't know where I'm going with that. But if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to me, or if you want to ask them now, I'm happy to do so. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I'm gonna stop recording.